For sinister trespassing tales that reveal haunted secrets of the cursed unexplained, Alice felt it in her bones as she tucked Mia into bed. It wasn't just the fatigue from last night's diner shift. The air in the house felt heavy and thick, as if something was waiting, lurking in the shadows. Flickering lights cast long, jittery shadows across the room. They danced in the corners, teasing her senses, whispering secrets only they could hear. She tried to shake off the unease, reminding herself she needed to be strong for her kids. But every night, the eerie feeling crept closer, tightening like a vice around her heart. Their quiet suburb didn't feel so quiet anymore. Whispers about Mr. Hayes drifted down the streets, carried on the wind. Friendly smiles turned Potomac cold when you met his gaze. She noticed how he'd stand too long outside under the flickering streetlight, eyes scanning the neighborhood not in concern, but with an unsettling curiosity. Something about him made her skin crawl. As she timed her nightly runs to the diner, a sense of paranoia coiled tightly in her stomach. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A chill ran down her spine as the lights flickered again, plunging the living room into darkness before erupting back to life. That's when she started finding things. Little artifacts, a rusted key, a fabric doll seemingly misplaced, but somehow feeling like they carried the weight of memories not her own. It was a game of cat and mouse with something unseen, and every discovery stretched her nerves thinner. Shadows whispered from hallways, and the once comforting walls of her childhood home felt more like a trap. And then came the diary. Huddled in the attic, its dusty pages crackled under her fingers. Clumsily scrawled notes revealed chilling details, her parents' involvement with a cult that had once flourished in the shadows of the very streets she walked. Protective rituals? The house was supposed to keep them safe, she mused bitterly, but what happened when the protectors became more sinister? The next morning, panic clawed at her throat. After a short trip to the grocery store, Mia was gone. She screamed her daughter's name, breathless with terror. The streets loomed empty, eyes peeping from behind curtains with a curious malice. Each face she turned to felt a little too familiar, yet distant like a figment of her mind. The whispers returned, swirling around her, taunting her sanity. Would anyone believe her? The authorities merely nodded sympathetically, brushing off her frantic pleas, mistaking exhaustion for hysteria. Alice's heart raced louder than the thud of her footsteps as she sought out Mr. Hayes, desperation propelling her forward. She tried to command herself to approach with calm, but terror crept onto her breath. "What do you know?" she spat out, words slicing through the air. His smirk was unnerving, as if he found her fear amusing. "The house has always taken care of its own," he whispered, a melodic terror that sent shivers up her spine. Shadows thickened, pulsing around them like a living entity, as Alice felt the ground drop away beneath her. It dawned on her in that dreadful moment she wasn't merely fighting to retrieve her daughter. She was caught in a battle with forces beyond her comprehension. Screams shattered the stillness of the night, echoing through her mind. Would she be able to unravel the cursed legacy of her home, or was she already too late? Alice stumbled backward, her heart slamming against her ribcage like a hammer against steel. The shadows coiled tighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Mr. Hayes' eyes glinted, reflecting the streetlight that flickered ominously above them. She could feel the ground beneath her shift, as if the earth itself was conspiring to draw her down into the darkness. "What do you mean?" she gasped, her voice trembling, barely able to contain the fear that churned in her gut. Hayes leaned in closer, his smile darkening. "There are things buried deep here, Alice. Things that never wanted to be found," he sneered. For a moment, the facade of his calm rationality broke, revealing a glimmer of insanity that sent a shiver of dread skittering up her spine. Clenching her fists, Alice took a step back, instinct urging her to run. But where? She couldn't leave Mia behind. Every fiber of her being screamed that the answer lay with him, but the more she pressed, the more the shadows twisted around them. Where is she? She demanded, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. A thin, bone-chilling laugh escaped Mr. Hayes' lips. She's right where she belongs. Bound to the history of this place. You just need to look deeper. The shadows seemed to swirl around his feet, hungry and alive, a depthless darkness that beckoned her nearer. White-hot panic ignited within her. No. You can't take her. With a surge of adrenaline, Alice tore her gaze from him, scanning the street, the fluttering edges of the night dimly lit by the flickering bulb. Was her child truly caught in this web? Or was it a ploy to break her? Suddenly, she remembered the diary, the secrets it held. There was a hint buried in those pages about a ritual, a dark one. Might that be the key? If it was meant to protect their family, perhaps it could also uncover the truth. What did my parents do? She whispered, horrified as the memory washed over her, tinged with dread. What do I need to do? Find the heart of the house, he replied, voice low and cold. The basement. His eyes twinkled with unsettling glee. But be careful. The house does not take kindly to intruders. Just like that, he took a step back, merging entirely into the shadows as if they had swallowed him whole. Breath hitching, Alice felt the weight of the evening constrict against her. Could she even trust her own thoughts anymore? The silence pressed in, suffocating and thick. Turning back toward her house, something pulled at her, an invisible thread weaving its way around her heart. The house, the twisted entity wrapped in her family's history, held the answers. She just needed the courage to plunge into that darkness. With a pounding heart, she approached her home. The door creaked ominously as she opened it. A faint whisper echoed back to her. Racing down the hallway, the shadows danced around her, a shroud of fear and anticipation guiding her steps toward the basement door, which felt heavier than the world itself. As she descended the rickety stairs, the air turned cold and stale, wrapping around her like a vice. Each step prompted whispers, disembodied murmurs spilling secrets of pain and loss, winding around her mind. She hesitated at the threshold of darkness. Then she saw it, a flicker, a glimmer of light in the far corner. It pulsed alive, beckoning. The heart of the house? What would she uncover? Would it offer hope or further plunge her into despair? A heavy sense of dread settled, and it dawned on her, she might not return. She had come too far to turn back. Taking a breath to steady herself, she crossed over the threshold. And just as the door creaked shut behind her, the whispers sharpened, turning shrill and frantic. You shouldn't have come here, but now, she had no choice. What would find her in the depths of the basement? The basement enveloped Alice like a shroud, its cold air grazing her skin as she stepped into the faint light. The source flickered in a distant corner, revealing jagged shadows that danced along the walls. The incessant whispering grew louder, intertwining words lost to dread. Anguished cries echoed in her mind, a chorus of sorrow that felt both familiar and foreign. Mommy! The sound halted her breath, a pinprick of hope mingled with paralyzing terror. Was it Mia? Could she be nearby? Alice strained her ears, desperation clawing at her throat. She took a step forward, then another, each footfall echoing across the cold concrete floor, thin layers of dust hanging in the air with every movement. The whispers turned to a sinister mutter, becoming putrid and insistent, wrapping around her thoughts. Leave while you can, a voice hissed, almost indistinguishable beneath the soft hum. The house seemed alive, shifting in response to her presence, pushing against her with the weight of its history. The warm light flickered yet again, revealing an ornate mirror covered in cobwebs. The glass was blackened at the edges, as if it had absorbed the shadows themselves. It drew her in, and she stumbled closer, heart racing. Reflected in its depths, she glimpsed the silhouette of a child, small and fragile. Mia! Her voice rose, cracking like ice underfoot. But the image faded, replaced by the harrowing visions of the house's past. People faceless and screaming twisted in agony, clinging to one another as if seeking comfort in their despair. The weight of lives lost surged around her, wrapping around her like chains. Then came the laughter, maniacal and hollow. Alice recoiled, reeling from the sinister energy that seeped from the mirror. It felt as if the very walls were closing in, craving her surrender, demanding her fear. Yet she fought against it, a flicker of her resolve igniting through the icy grip of terror. "Find the heart," she mumbled, echoing Mr. Hayes' twisted words. What if the answer lay within reaching out to the darkness? Gathering her strength, she stepped from the thrumming light of the mirror and pressed deeper into the basement's gloom. Each step felt like wading through syrup, heavy and suffocating. The whispers transformed into a steady heartbeat, a rhythm that pulsed around her, leading her to an old wooden door at the far end. It appeared forlorn, splintered and gnarled, as if time itself had forgotten it. Alice hesitated. Was this the heart? What would she find behind it? "Open it," the voices chanted, their tone a hypnotic undercurrent pulling her closer. With a shaky hand, she grasped the handle, the metal cold and unyielding. She felt a rush of wind, icy and calculating, like a predator's breath tickling the nape of her neck. "Please, Mia," she whispered, as if her child could hear her through the darkness that closed in tightly around her. Then the door creaked open, revealing a space thick with shadows and a pulsing darkness that seemed to breathe. A gust of cold air burst forth, wrapping around her like a vice, suffocating and slick, as if the air itself was alive. In the dim light, she saw it, the heart. A grotesque relic, pulsating softly on a makeshift pedestal. Blood-like clots clung to its surface, glistening malevolently. She could hear the whispers morphing, transforming into anguished moans, weaving a tapestry of despair that twisted inside her mind. "Do you want to save her?" The voices taunted, conjointly shrill and grave. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" Alice felt her resolve waver. She had come seeking answers, but standing before that heart, she faced a choice that could demand more than she could afford to give. Would she dare unlock the secrets of the house and risk losing everything? As the heartbeat intensified, another vision crashed upon her, a flash of Mia's cherubic face, a pleading expression frozen in time. Without thinking, Alice reached out with trembling hands, the darkness closing in on her, desperate to claim its prize. What awaited her in that twisted heart? Would it reveal salvation or engulf her in a deeper hell? Alice's fingers brushed against the pulsing heart, the warmth radiating from it feeling impossibly alive. She shuddered, the sensations overwhelming. It was wrong, so wrong. But there was a part of her, the part that echoed Mia's voice, sweet and innocent, that urged her closer. No. A desperate thought pierced through her confusion. What could she give? What price would this have? The whispers swelled into a cacophony around her, clamoring for attention, enticing her to let go of her fear. "Trust us, we know your heart," they sang, each voice dripping with temptation. "You only need to surrender." As she hesitated, the vision of Mia flickered again in front of her. "Mommy, please." The pleading was raw and pure, fueling Alice's determination. But the heart pulsed more insistently, its rhythm matching the quick beat of her own heart. It felt like the house itself was beating beneath her feet, alive and hungry. Alice inhaled deeply, the air thick with decay and secrets. A voice slipped through the murmurs, clearer and sharper. "You can save her. You can fix this." She felt its weight settle on her shoulders, wrapping tightly around her, like a vice. "Just touch it," the chorus chanted. "Just touch and ask." She let out a breath, trembling as she leaned closer. The heat danced on her skin. Time slowed and slipped away, everything else fading into the background. "Stay away from it." A voice boomed, heavy and desperate. It rumbled like distant thunder, echoing off the walls and causing the shadows to quiver. Alice jerked back, her heart hammering wildly. "Who are you?" she gasped, looking around. The shadows flickered as if trying to conceal their secrets. Someone who lost, like you. The voice was male, gravelly and sorrow-laden. The heart feeds off despair. Letting it in will only drag you deeper into its grasp. Alice's mind raced. Would it really save her daughter, or was it a trap set by the darkness? The shadows moved restlessly, whispering lingering doubts, trying to corrode her resolve. Choose, they whispered. Your heart or her life. The thought twisted in her gut. If she chose to reach for it, would it mean losing herself? What if Mia was a sacrifice in this brutal bargain? Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away, clenching her fists. Please, Mia, she whispered, standing firm. I won't let you go. I will find you. I promise. The heart pulsed violently, a guttural growl emanating from it like a trapped beast. The shadows coiled around her legs, pulling her back towards it, and Alice fought against them, desperation raging in her veins. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut behind her. The sound was deafening, like thunder crashing upon the earth. She spun around, panic clawing at her throat. No! She hurled herself at the door, pounding against it in vain, her screams reflecting off the icy walls. She could feel the walls closing in, the shadows thrumming with malicious anticipation. Open the heart, the voices snarled, their demeanor changing, hungry and eager. Alice felt the familiar ache in her chest, the fear, the loss, the weight of her own darkness. I won't. She yelled, shaking her head fiercely. But the heart pulsed again, and she could see it, the dark truth stripping away her resolve. But as she stood there, her fingers curled tightly in desperation, the whispers transformed again. Not all choices are lost, embrace it. Mia's voice resurfaced, soft and faint. Mommy, as the world warped around her, Alice made a choice. What would that choice be? Would it shape a new reality or bind her forever in the curse of the house? The basement was alive with unease, energy crackling like static in the air. The very walls seemed to hold their breath. And then, with a sudden jolt, everything went black as Alice found herself enveloped in darkness. What awaited her in the depths of this endless void? Would she emerge to face the truth, or would she dissolve, lost to the shadows forever? The darkness was thick, suffocating. Alice felt it wrap around her limbs like grasping fingers, pulling her deeper. Her heart raced, each beat echoing in the silence that swallowed her whole. She couldn't tell up from down, lost in a void where time had no meaning. The weight of her desperation mingled with the whispers that danced just on the edge of her consciousness. Where was Mia? Mommy, that soft voice echoed, clearer now, leading her further into the abyss. Alice's breath quickened, the sound of her own panic drowning out everything else. Please, she called out, her voice cracking, where are you? In response, the darkness seemed to stir. Shapes flickered at the edges of her vision, amorphous forms whispering secrets as they swirled around her. The confidence of the earlier whispers faded, replaced by a cacophony of frantic voices urging her to listen. Embrace the truth, they murmured, soft yet insistent. You must accept what lies ahead. Suddenly, a piercing light split through the black, illuminating a path ahead. It was intoxicating. Against her better judgment, she stepped toward it, drawn in like a moth to a flame. The air buzzed with electricity, crackling with energy that pulsed through her veins. With each step, the whispers intensified, their tone shifting from coaxing to menacing. You can't turn back now, Alice. You've already committed. Where's Mia? She cried, panic clawing at her throat. The light revealed fleeting images, fragments of memories entwined with dark shadows. A baby's laughter cut short, a hand reaching out, then slipping away. It twisted her stomach. Show me. The moment her frustration spilled over, the light flared brighter, blinding her momentarily. When her vision returned, she found herself in a familiar place, the basement, but it looked different. The heart was gone, replaced by a vast expanse of mirrors reflecting countless versions of herself, each one distorted and twisted. Choose wisely, a voice breathed behind her. Alice spun around. A figure shrouded in shadows stood against the wall, the outline of a man, his eyes glinting like blades. "Who are you?" she demanded. "I was once like you, driven to desperation. You can't change your fate. Face the truth, or remain lost forever," he replied, pointing to the mirrors. One by one, they showed glimpses of lives hers and Mia's based on choices made and choices missed. In one reflection, she saw herself screaming, tears streaking down her cheeks as she held an empty cradle. In another, she was suffocated by shadows, losing herself in the darkness once more. "Stop! I can save her!" Alice shouted, reaching out to the images, but they rippled away, evading her grasp. "Saving her means losing yourself. You know that," the shadow whispered, shadowy fingers stretching toward her. "No." The word burst from her lips, filled with raw fear and determination. But the weight of the mirrors bore down on her, pressing through the layers of despair. "Make your choice. It's time to embrace what you truly are," the figure breathed, its tone grim yet oddly comforting. A sharp pain lanced through Alice's chest, a reminder that time was running out. The shadows closed in around her, constricting, twisting. Panic surged again, drowning her reason. Would she sacrifice herself to save Mia, or accept this dark truth and forfeit her daughter? The mirrors hummed around her, reflecting a choice yet unmade. In that moment, she saw Mia's reflection in one of the mirrors, her small face smiling, innocent and unaware. The urge to reach for her burned within. But which Mia was this? The past, the future, or an illusion manufactured by the darkness? Before she could decide, the ground beneath her shifted, sending tremors through the room. The mirrors cracked, shards spiraled around her, slicing the air. "Quickly, Alice! Before the darkness consumes you both." Just as the last shard broke free, time seemed to shatter with them. Would she grasp at her reflection of hope, or would despair seal her fate? The air thickened, and all fell silent. The tension hung heavy, waiting for her. Next move. Would she choose to unravel the truth, or let it consume her whole? What monsters awaited them on the other side? Alice felt her heart thumping in her ears as the shards of the mirrors fell away, each clink echoing like a death knell. The basement trembled, the air thick with foreboding. Darkness pooled like a living thing, rolling and writhing at her feet, eager to swallow her whole. She stumbled, adrenaline coursing through her veins, dragging her toward the reflected Mia. Mia's face, innocent and bright, shone through the chaos, but doubt gnawed at Alice. Was this a truth meant to save her? Or a trick to ensnare her deeper into despair? "Mommy!" The voice rang out again, a shimmering beacon in the storm of shadows. "No!" Alice shouted, but the basement resonated with laughter as if the darkness itself mocked her struggle. Shadows twisted, dancing in the corners like phantoms hungry for flesh, and she felt the chill of their breath on the back of her neck. "Choose." The man's voice rolled through the chaos, an insistent command heavy with dread. "Embrace your fate." With trembling hands, Alice reached for the mirror that held Mia's reflection, but another image tugged at her, vibrant yet tragic, a version of her own self cradling a lifeless Mia, weeping in a sea of darkness. Horror gripped her. The ripples of that choice fell like stones in water, each choice slipping further away, drowning in despair. "Stop! Please!" she cried out, her voice breaking. "I can't choose. You must." The shadow insisted, stepping into the glow of shattered light. He reached out, gaunt fingers brushing her arm. The coldness jolted her, forcing clarity through her murky thoughts. "What are you?" "A guide and a warning," he said, his voice low and calm, yet laced with an edge of danger. "Each path leads somewhere. There's no return from the choice you'll make." Alice's breath grew ragged as she glanced back at the mirage of her daughter. The whirling darkness that surrounded her felt almost alive now, pulsing with a rhythm not unlike her own frantic heart. Inflict your pain on yourself, or save the one you love, he rasped, words hanging heavy like the last strands of a web, awaiting the inevitable snap. Suddenly, the mirrors were shouting back at her, taunting with lost possibilities. In a split second, she saw the images jigsaw together, who she could be with each decision, each choice splintering from the other. One mirror showed a hazy future where Mia laughed beneath a blue sky. Another depicted Alice with a hollow smile, darkness a permanent fixture in her eyes, watching a child with hollow laughter, never her own. Mia needs you. The whisper scratched at her thoughts, blending into a mantra. With each pulse of the shadowy figures, the urgency mounted, wrapping tighter around her throat. Stay. The figure commanded, his eyes glinting like fractured glass. You don't have to go back. Alice's instincts screamed, even as the light of the mirrors dimmed. Time was slipping through her fingers like sand grains of desperation, remorse, and unfulfilled promises. Run! A voice cried from the darkest corners, but which way? The closer she got, the more she realized only one choice would free her. With a fierce determination, she let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding, stepping forward, willing to face the consequences. But then, walls of mirrors erupted into darkness, refracting shadows that filled the room like a tidal wave. The fragments shattered into 1,000 shards of anguish. Time runs out. The figure warned, his tone laced with urgency as shadows writhed closer. What do I do? She gasped, caught in a spiraling vortex of choices and fear. Then, in the thickening blackness, she saw a familiar face appear, not Mia, but another reflection. A face she hadn't seen in years, a face from long before, standing with a knowing grin that sent surges of terror down her spine. Help me. The voice echoed softly through the swarm, an old promise never fulfilled, laced with dread, and there, in the tumult of distorted truths and agonizing choices, Alice realized the true price of salvation. Would she confront her past to find a way to save her child, or be forever haunted by the knowledge of what might have been? The looming darkness chuckled, and in that moment, Alice felt the weight of her world crumbling, like mirrors shattering into shards around her, a reminder that the greatest monster might just be herself. Make your choice before it's too late. Her heart raced, the echoes around her warping into a cacophony of screams. Would she accept the specter of her past or plunge deeper into darkness, risking it all? The laughter spiraled into manic echoes, unraveling Alice's thoughts. Panic surged within her as she stood there, a spider at the center of a web, each thread a broken promise, each shadow a whisper of doom. Help me. The ghostly voice lingered, sliding through the darkness like a serpent, teasing her with memories. She could hardly breathe for the suffocating dread that engulfed her. Her old self flashed in her mind, the girl she'd once been, bright-eyed and unafraid, yet now but a flickering ember under layers of despair. Choose. It resonated again, more insistent, slicing through the chaos. Alice staggered, her knees nearly giving way as she fought against the tempest surrounding her. The reflection of her child faded, shifting and warping, blending with the face of betrayal she thought she'd buried long ago. Each visage seemed to reach for her, both asking for salvation, yet offering none. The dark figure loomed closer, shadows twisting around him. Time is running out. His voice transformed into a chant, echoing off the basement walls. You must confront the past. Embrace it. A pressure mounted in her chest. Why did it feel like a death knell? But she couldn't change the past, the shattering choices had already been made. She felt the ground shift beneath her, the mirrors quietly pulling back, as if drawing a curtain over an unfinished act. I want to leave Mia. She yelled through choking tears, but the words fell flat against the laughter, and the swirling darkness quivered in delight, swallowing her voice whole. The walls pulsed, pushing back as they shifted, fading like ghosts. The sensation pulled her deeper, into another realm where reality blurred sickly around her. Mommy! The cry rang out once again, sharper this time, slicing through the fog. It was near now, so close she could almost touch it. Her heart skipped, racing to the sound that anchored her. With desperation, Alice raised the barriers within herself. She had to make it out. Cherishing the light means confronting the dark, she whispered to herself, recalling a forgotten lesson from a past life, a time when she believed in the strength of good over evil. Face your sins. The figure's voice was more croon than command now, oozing with familiarity, almost mocking. Who are you? She cried, still grasping at straws, staggering backward, knowing she was weak to stumble in this shadowy abyss. Your deepest regrets, Alice. I am what you fear you've become. He gestured around, and the mirrors exploded in flashes of her shattered memories, arguments, laughter, betrayal. Each piece of glass reflected her guilt, magnifying every moment of selfishness and sorrow back at her. No! She screamed, throwing her hands over her ears to drown out the memories, the echoes of her past taunting her sanity. And then, standing defiantly against the oncoming wave of darkness, she remembered, she could fight. She could overcome. The shadows danced back, and for an instant, hesitation flickered within the figure's hollow gaze. This was her moment. With one fierce breath, Alice lunged toward the image of her daughter glowing in the chaos. I choose you. I will not let you fade away. But the darkness recoiled violently. You think you can save her? You think you can rewrite fate? The chilling laughter froze her in place, the shadows swirling maliciously. The man's silhouette began to pixelate into the shadows, distorting the faint outlines of Mia behind him. Each pulse of light drew Mia closer, but the darkness wrapped tighter around Alice, a constrictor, revealing its intimate knowledge of her fears. The glimmer of a way out shimmered faintly in the dark, but a sinister reminder lingered. Nothing is ever truly freed from the shadows. Suddenly, the mirrors began collapsing inwards, crashing into one another like thunderclaps of despair. Weighted by doubt, Alice felt the ground beneath her tremble violently. Her heart hammered in sync with the rattle of shattering illusions. Glancing back, the spectral visage of her child wavered behind a veil of darkness, lingering just out of reach. Choose. The final word slammed into her as the shadows thrashed around her. In that crucial heartbeat, fear and hope entwined. Would she reach Mia, or would she be swallowed by the darkness she feared to embrace? As the world began to fade around her, a last haunting thought crept into her mind. How far would she go to save the light of her life? In the depths of chaos, the final choice awaited, but would salvation come through light or darkness? The ground shattered beneath Alice's feet. The mirrors crashed around her, sharp shards glinting menacingly as they fell, echoing the whispers of the past. She could feel the darkness compressing her, a weight, a blanket of despair that threatened to smother her whole. The laughter morphed into screams that echoed in her mind, blending sounds of joy with horror, a cacophony of her fragmented memories, clawing at her sanity. Mommy! The voice trembled through her, fragile and pure, yanking her focus. Mia! Alice fixed her gaze, searching through the chaos. The faint glow of her child pulsed like a distant star in a blackened sky, and her heart soared, then plummeted like a lead weight, so close, yet so far. Stop! She cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. The dark figure loomed larger, the shadows spiraling around him like a serpent ready to strike. Let her go! Let her go! He echoed, voice dripping with mockery. What do you think has brought you here? You cannot flee your sins, Alice. They've led you directly to this moment. He raised a hand, and with it, the memories materialized, swirling in the air like a storm. Each fragment glimmered with regret: the argument when she'd chosen work over family, the day she hadn't listened, the moment when she let go of Mia's hand in the crowded market. She felt each pang of guilt slice deeper, a physical agony that threatened to cause her to buckle. In a surge of defiance, Alice screamed, I want to be trapped by this. She shut her eyes, willing herself to focus on Mia, conjuring up their moments together, laughter during silly bedtime stories, warm hugs that melted away the world. She inhaled sharply, her determination igniting within her. Mommy! The call surged again, stronger, and the light pulsed brightly. She reached out, fingers trembling, grasping for that shimmering possibility. "I'll find you." Hiding behind nostalgia, won't save you, the figure hissed, and the shadows lunged, wrapping tendrils around Alice's arms. "Face the truth." The constricting darkness tightened, squeezing her breath from her lungs. Just as the pressure became unbearable, a rush of adrenaline flooded her veins. She yanked her arms downward, breaking free from the darkness's grip. "No more!" she roared. With a surge of courage, Alice pushed through the darkness. The shards of glass exploded around her, scattering her memories in an unpredictable storm. It was a battle. With each step forward, she could feel the weight of her past trying to drag her down. But she pressed on. The vision of Mia ignited her spirit, a bright, blossoming light that flickered like a candle in the wind. "Together, we can break free," she shouted to the brilliance. A pulse of light surged forward, melting the shadows like ice in the sun. The echoes of laughter and screams fell silent, swallowed by the beacon of her will. She was melting away the doubts, the blame. The darkness around her seemed to tremble, fearing the strength of her choice, but then the figure snarled, "Futile." For every step toward the light, there's a step back into despair. As the shadows quivered at the edges, Alice felt herself being pulled in two directions, light and darkness. She locked eyes with Mia's shining presence. With trembling hands, Alice reached deeper into the darkness, seeking to grab hold of the lost pieces of her past, to affirm that they did not own her. It was an act of desperation, a gamble of hope. "I am not afraid." The echoes returned, promising to envelop her again, taut with betrayal and regret. But she wouldn't bend this time. The spiral of light grew stronger, resonating through her core, illuminating the path ahead. Yet, with every moment of clarity, whispers from the dark flickered at the edges of her consciousness. "Choose again," they beckoned. "What do you really want?" Just as Alice felt the warmth encompass her, a chilling thought slithered through. The figure was not gone. In his laughter, the darkness was never truly vanquished. She spun around to face him, heart racing. "Choose." He taunted again, his voice wrapping around her like smoke. The shadows flared, and Alice was left teetering on a precipice of chaos and clarity. The light pulsed, desperate, but the dark waited, patient and unyielding, promising more terrible truths. As Alice teetered between both worlds, a single question hung in the air, thick with tension. Was she willing to accept her past to save her future? Would she sink into the dark or reach for the light? The shadows surged, wild and restless, as Alice felt herself slipping. Fear clawed at her spine, urging her to retreat. But she couldn't. Not when Mia's light flickered like a beacon in the distance. It was a siren's call. She knew there had to be a way to pull her child back from the abyss. "Mommy!" The cry pierced her heart, forcing her to focus. She lunged toward the light, every muscle straining against the weight of despair dragging her back. But just as her fingers grasped toward it, the dark figure erupted between them, laughing, twisting her hope into mockery. "Did you think it would be this easy?" he sneered, his black eyes glinting like polished obsidian. The shadows coiled around him like a cloak, a living entity fueled by her fear. "Accept it. Your child is lost in the folds of your failures." A gust of wind roared around her, swirling the glass shards into a whirlwind of betrayal. Each fragment reflected the moments that haunted her, her past dancing in a grotesque masquerade. Faces of friends and relatives twisted into anguished masks, their mouths stretched in silent screams. They pointed accusations at her, shoving her further into insecurity. "No." Alice shook her head violently, a primal energy surging within her. "I will fight for this. I am not my failures." Determination fueled her as she stepped toward the shimmering light from Mia. But the figure loomed closer, every inch radiating malice. He reached out, gesturing toward the shards around them. "Do you see their truth?" he hissed. Each piece reflects a part of you, every choice a consequence. Why do you think the darkness clings to you? Pain shot through her heart, memories crashing into her like waves. She had allowed the void to grow, had let guilt fester in the corners of her mind. But could that define her now? Could she truly surrender to despair? Mia's glow brightened, a soft laugh breaking through her memories like sunlight piercing the shadows. "Mommy, please." That cry ignited something raging and fierce within Alice. In this moment, she refused to let the past dictate her future. "Enough!" she bellowed. Light exploded from her core, pushing back the shadows as Alice surged forward, rising with the ferocity of a storm. The darkness shrieked, shrill and haunting, trying to engulf her. But Alice pulled from the depths of her spirit, conjuring every joyful memory with Mia, every laugh, every tender moment. They flooded her, warming her soul until it blazed with purpose. "Let her go!" Alice cried out, focusing on the dark figure, exposing his illusion for what it truly was, a mask for her own fears. "You have no power over me." The figure faltered, the malevolence in his eyes flickering. The shadows twisted, swirling in chaos as the light pushed them back. For a fleeting moment, the whispers grew faint, silence creeping in like a thief, and Alice was left with an all-consuming quiet, but that silence didn't last. A growl rumbled from deep within the shadows, a thunderous voice that reverberated in the pit of her stomach. "You think you've won? This is merely a game. The darkness is patient. It knows your weaknesses." Alice hesitated, the confidence draining from her limbs as dread washed over her. Had she only succeeded in angering it? Had she overlooked the depths of her despair? The chilling laughter rose again, wrapping around her heart like cold steel. "You are not free yet, Alice. Until you embrace your darkness, it will always linger watching, waiting." With her heart pounding, she fought to maintain her grasp on the light, each second feeling more precarious. It was a fragile balance, one foot on light, one in shadow. What would it take for her to embrace the darkness? As she strained against the shadows twisting around her, a single thought coiled tightly in her mind. What if the darkness wasn't just the past? What if it held something more sinister, something alive? A breath caught in her throat. Could the true horror be lurking just beyond her understanding? Mommy, Mia's voice trembled, echoing in the distance, and suddenly, Alice realized she was running out of time. Would she find the strength to face her darkness, or would it consume her entirely? The chaos ebbed, a brief reprieve overshadowed by waves of uncertainty. Alice stood heart racing, caught between the radiant glow of her daughter and the ominous shadows that loomed. It was clear now, to save Mia, she needed to confront the darkness within herself, the very darkness that pulsated with every heartbeat around her. "Please, Mia. Hold on," she whispered, feeling the warmth of her love pushing against the icy dread that tugged at her spirit. She took a step forward, eyes fixed on the light, determined to bridge the distance between her and her child. "Stop." The shadow figure leered at her, his presence overwhelming, like a storm cloud choking the sun. "You think love will save you? It only binds you tighter to the abyss." Alice shook her head, steeling herself against his taunts. His deep voice tangled with her thoughts, stirring fears she thought long buried. She was a mother, she wouldn't abandon her child. There had to be a way through this. Suddenly, the shadows surged at her, roiling with insatiable hunger, ready to consume the light of her hope. Panic clawed at her throat, but then, in the depths of that darkness, she caught a glimpse of something, a flicker of fear nestled behind the figure's bravado. If he could fear her resolve, then she had something he didn't. Taking a deep breath, Alice gripped the edges of her resolve. "You think you know me. You've seen my horrors, but you've never seen my strength." The shadows hissed, recoiling slightly from her words. She pushed on. "I am not just a collection of regrets. I am more. I am the laughter of my daughter, the warmth of our shared moments." With her mind racing, images of their days flooded back, storytime snuggles, park picnics, and the feel of Mia's tiny hand in hers. Each memory felt like a spark, reigniting her courage, the light around her pulsed, growing brighter with every reaffirmation. I can face you. I can face my darkness. The figure faltered, his confidence wavering for the first time. Was it true? Did the shadows that haunted her possess power over her anymore? Alice felt a rush of warmth consume her, and the shadows recoiled further, surprised by her strength. Mommy! Mia called out again, her voice a haunting melody wrapped in urgency. As if fueled by the sound, Alice surged forward, slipping through the shadows that clung tight to the ground. She had to reach her. In a moment of clarity, Alice realized, she needed to weave her past with her present. The memories were not chains, they were the foundation she would stand on, the truths she needed to accept. The very essence of her struggle would be the key to reclaiming Mia. You do not own me. She shouted, facing the other side of herself, the little girl she once was lost, vulnerable yet brimming with unyielding spirit. As the figure lunged at her with a shriek of rage, she returned her focus to Mia, that beautiful light flickering in the turbulent darkness. You don't scare me. I won't let you take her from me. As Alice thrust her hands forward, the walls of the basement shimmered and shivered, the darkness recoiling as if in pain. Let go of my child. Let go of the fear that binds us. The shadows screamed, swirling violently around her as she embraced every fragment of her past, her sorrow, her regret, even the pain of betrayal. Each emotion transformed from chains dragging her down to fuel igniting her spirit. The figure's smile twisted frantically, the balance of power was shifting. Weakness will be your downfall, he hissed, but his confidence faltered as the light blazed forward. Each step she took, the darkness shrieked, unraveling like fraying rope. With one final breath, Alice surged toward the ethereal glow that was Mia. Tears streamed down her face as she channeled every ounce of love, every triumphant memory into that tether. Hold on, honey. Mommy's coming. She felt a warmth sweep over her as if the universe conspired to believe in her. The shadows shrieked in anger, ferocity unleashed as they swirled into a vortex. Alice braced herself, knowing this was it. The final moment she fought for her daughter and their future. We can break through together. She let the light guide her, her truth illuminating the darkness. With one fierce thrust of her will, she pierced through the swirling shadows, and there at the core of it all radiated the shimmering image of Mia, eyes bright with innocence and love. Mommy! The shriek of delight echoed as Alice's hands finally clasped around her daughter. The shadows screeched one last time, buckling beneath the illumined love that engulfed them. In an explosion of energy, the shadows imploded, a whirlwind of darkness spiraling into itself and collapsing away. Light erupted, enveloping them in warmth as Alice embraced Mia tight, heart soaring. They were safe. They were together. The basement faded slowly, shadows dissolving into nothingness, leaving behind the quiet space of acceptance. Alice held her daughter, tears of relief flowing freely. She could feel Mia's heartbeat against her chest, a sweet symphony reminding her of resilience and unconditional love. I thought you'd lost me, Mia whispered softly, her small voice wrapping around Alice's heart. Never. I'll always find you, Alice replied, the weight of the last moments washing away like a receding tide. As the remnants of despair fell away, the once oppressive air shifted, bringing forth a wave of warmth and clarity. They stepped through the remnants of the darkness together, two hearts entwined against the echoes of the past. The house stood around them, no longer a haunted prison, but a home, a refuge. Hand in hand, they faced the light of a new day, ready to embrace whatever came next. It was over. They were free now, with renewed strength and understanding. It was time to share their journey. Everyone had a choice, a shadow or a light. And in sharing their story, they would give hope. If you feel this wasn't just a story, but a journey with us, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and let others find this tale. Flood the comments with your reactions, theories, and let us spark a conversation about the darkness we all face. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who needs to see this conclusion. Be the light for them too.